sigmoid curve. Nee. Okay. Now we get to an important sentence. Hemoglobin has a high affinity for oxygen. What does the word affinity means? Affinity. Ability to like. If I have an affinity for someone, I have the ability to like that something or someone. Nee. So, hemoglobin has a high affinity for oxygen. When oxygen tension is high, we do understand that. But therefore, in the lungs, it combines with oxygen, forming oxyhemoglobin. Hemoglobin has a low affinity for oxygen. Where? In the tissue, in the respiring tissue. Because there is a low, therefore it dissociates among the body tissue, releasing oxygen. Isn't it amazing? We always thought, okay, diffusion there, oxyhemoglobin, go to the tissue, and then we said, okay, diffusion is taking place. That is what we have learned up to now. Now, we do understand it is not because of diffusion, it is because of the and the affinity of hemoglobin. Nee, for oxygen. Okay. So, oxygen is released from hemoglobin in the tissue because there is a low oxygen partial pressure. The lower the partial pressure of the oxygen, the more oxygen is released from the red blood cells. The release of oxygen from hemoglobin is called oxygen dissociation. Sê hom gou gehard, please say that. Oxygen dissociation. And please read, at a high partial pressure of oxygen, which is where? In the capillaries of alveoli in the lungs, hemoglobin stays saturated. At a low pressure of oxygen, which is in the capillaries of the tissue cells, hemoglobin is less than 50% saturated. So oxyhemoglobin dissociates and oxygen diffuses. Now that we do understand. But now I want to bring something more to you. So there I have the normal oxygen dissociation curve. The moment when I am exercising, what happens? What do my muscles need? My muscles need more oxygen, to respire at a higher rate. Need more oxygen, need to respire at a higher rate. Why? To have more energy. Please repeat it. Need more oxygen at the respire at a higher rate. Yes? Why? To have more energy. Do you hear that? 3 marks. And that means, class, all of a sudden I have an increase in what gas? Carbon dioxide. And immediately when I am exercising, my oxygen dissociation, what caused this move to the right? Lower pH. All of a sudden lower pH. Why? Carbon dioxide increase. Carbon dioxide dissolve and forms carbonic acid. That makes a more acid environment. So when the pH increase, a decrease. When the temperature increase, will exercise increase my body temperature? Of course, because I have more energy produced and heat is coming with respiration, and I have an increase in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, I will experience the Bohr effect is due to an increase of exercise. I need what? I need more oxygen because the respiring muscles need more energy, and therefore the rate of respiration increase. That release more carbon dioxide, that change the chemical environment in my cells. Nee. And now all of a sudden it moves to that side. Now, before I am explaining anything more, I want you to discover this yourself. Complete the following sentence by underlining the correct word. Hemoglobin has a higher or lower affinity for oxygen in the lungs. Higher, yes. The oxygen tension in the lungs is high. In the respiring tissue, the affinity for carbon dioxide is high or low? High. At a low partial pressure for oxygen, hemoglobin is less saturated. Nee. So how will we label the x-axis? The x-axis is, please write it in. It is partial pressure of oxygen. And we need to have a unit, millimeter mercury. Nah, that is the unit we measure pressure in. Nah. Okay, kPa. Okay, but that is another way. So you can use kPa, that's fine. You can use what you have in your book, or millimeter mercury. Okay, now the release of oxygen from hemoglobin is called oxygen dissociation. Good. The next question is, what is 30 units on the x-axis at a pH of 7.2? 7.2 at 30? 40%. You agree? 40%. Okay. What is the percentage saturation at 30 units on the x-axis at 7.6? It's 80. Nah, okay, it's about 80. Let's say it's about 80. So what do we now see? At the same pressure of oxygen, if the pH is 7.2, lower, nee? Lower pH means more carbon dioxide. What is the saturation? How much did we say? 40%. That tells me that 60% of the oxygen was released when the pH was lower. When the pH was lower, it means that person was exercising, was having a lot of carbon dioxide in his or her blood. Do you understand that? And that is the Bohr effect. The Bohr effect, and now, okay, let's quickly complete that. Calculate the difference between the saturation at a pH of 7.2 and a 7.6 at 30 kilopascal. 80 minus 40 is about 40% of oxygen. No, almost 40%. Which curve shows a body that has practice? We can say C. No, C. C. Because 7.4 is a neutral pH. There is not added carbon dioxide. So the answer is C. What is the effect called that shows a shift to the right on the curve? The Bohr effect. Okay. Boer effect is fine. Boer effect is fine. So I want you now to go to page 278. And I am going to read it with you again. Explain that high carbon dioxide concentration shift the dissociation curve to the right. And explain the significance of this. The presence of carbon dioxide in respiring tissues increases the dissociation of oxygen from hemoglobin. So more oxygen is released. I want you to understand, dissociation means more released. This is called the Boer effect. The Boer effect is the effect of carbon dioxide on the dissociation curve. It moves the dissociation curve to the right. More oxygen is unloaded. Now, if you do not have the next sentence, I want you to write it in, and you can write it in pen. Carbon dioxide reduces the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen. Carbon dioxide reduces the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen. That means the moment when carbon dioxide increases in the tissue, hemoglobin does not like oxygen that much anymore. It releases the oxygen. And isn't that a wonderful thing, wonderful creation that happened? Isn't it? Because now when I'm exercising, oxygen will go to the respiring tissue more, but as it is released, it will be released faster. Why? Because there's carbon dioxide present. And what will happen is the carbon dioxide will be transported away by the hemoglobin. And we want that because we need to get rid of the carbon dioxide because it causes a toxic environment in my body if the carbon dioxide stays there. Do you follow me, class? And do you see this is not that difficult? No? But you will need to go through it in order to get the order, the sequence of the happenings. No? Okay, so you have more oxygen is unloaded, which means carbon dioxide reduces the affinity of hemoglobin. We can also say hemoglobin has a higher affinity for carbon dioxide. Okay, do you follow me, class? Very, very important. So we can say at a higher concentration of carbon dioxide, the hemoglobin is less, at a higher, daar by die pyltjie, at a higher concentration of carbon dioxide, blou pyltjie, hemoglobin is how much percent saturated? About 25% saturated with oxygen. At a lower concentration of carbon dioxide, the hemoglobin is 35% saturated. Nee. Okay. At a higher, the hemoglobin is 25 saturated with oxygen. At a higher percentage of carbon dioxide, at a lower, the hemoglobin is 35. Hemoglobin releases or unloaded more oxygen. And we need that. Nee. Unless what? Unless there is not oxygen coming to a respiring tissue. And then what will happen then? If there is no oxygen present, but the muscles need to work. What? Anaerobic respiration can still help for a while. Nee. And then I need to keep on breathing after I have stopped exercising to repay the oxygen debt. Okay, this is what it is. It is really not. And here I have and I'm going to read it through you because this is another way of looking at it, and then you can start with those questions. And today you will understand when carbon dioxide is around, hemoglobin has a reduced affinity for oxygen. The Bohr effect, the more carbon dioxide present, the more readily hemoglobin release its oxygen. This is why the behavior of hemoglobin changes in different regions of my body. Yeah, that is what we have said all day long. Nee. In my lungs, hemoglobin has a high affinity. It forms a huge, nice molecule and transport. Carbon dioxide causes hemoglobin to have a lower affinity for oxygen because it is acidic. That's what it is. So now we in biology together. When hemoglobin enters an area with a low pH, its shape changes to one with a lower affinity. Oh, now think. Hemoglobin is a protein. Proteins are sensitive for pH and temperature. You see? Now it makes sense. In respiring tissue, hemoglobin has a low affinity for oxygen because there's a high concentration of carbon dioxide. In the lungs, hemoglobin has a high affinity for oxygen because there's a low concentration of you got it. Nah, it is not. And can you see that is why I really want you to study hard this higher level stuff. Because the moment when you have it, it is not that difficult. Nah, and we can stay. Now, ask me that A curve. Nah, what is that? How can I get to a higher pH in the body? A shift to the right. Now remember, a shift to the right means more oxygen was released, more carbon dioxide absorbed to transport to the lungs to remove the carbon dioxide. What happens with a shift to the left? And I gave you a question like that. I gave you a question like that because they gave it a few years ago. So let's read that sentence and we are going to complete the next one. A shift to the right, Bohr, right. Nee. It means more oxygen released, more carbon dioxide absorbed to transport to the lungs to remove it from the tissue. We got that? Okay? A shift to the left. It means more oxygen absorbed. Okay. A shift to the left means, and you do not have it in your text, but they want you to see the opposite. Nee? If you know the one part, a shift to the left means more oxygen stored, less carbon dioxide absorbed to transport to the lungs and to remove it from the tissue. And this is very interesting. It happens in your muscle. In your muscle, you have a special protein. The name is myoglobin. Not hemoglobin, mayo for muscle, myoglobin. And that protein will make a curve to the left, which means this special protein in your muscle will store some oxygen when that muscle really needs to move. Okay? And interesting, when you look at the fetus inside a mother's uterus, they will also have a shift to the left because they rely on their mother's oxygen. And they have the ability to store oxygen. Okay, so a fetus will have to the left a curve, and myoglobin, protein in the muscles, will give you a curve to the left to store.
This lesson is provided by Eduvision with the support of sponsors. This broadcast is made possible by the Capricorn Group.
Mama! Roll away! Tirai come kanje Shashino mongure tango taripiti Okuza kuziro Juka kuningi nino Kariza kumbugantu Juka kumbangarantu Chokero shaire shaya You knew the who it over. Chokero shaire shaya. That my Scambadoo, gambadoo, gambadoo, why? We know that my Eruodi no kutenda no nyosima wira. Mia sei penduka. Dareru yuni. Wei no kumbata haita ufuru. Hear me know when I say Shokero Shaire Shaya. You knew the who it over. Shokero Shaire Shaya. Me I say that the mahodi to them when you're mumbinzi. Umvurange tairo koi, kairo kera me pia. Namshin. Shokero shaire shaya. Shokero shaire shaya. Oh yeah. You got to let it go, let it go, let it go. Let it go with the wind. Me I say shokero shaire shaya. Detta mahodi turam menyo mambinzi.
Steve Biko said, black man, you are on your own. Mother Africa, tell me what happened to your sacred stone. We are not living right, pretending to be happy when we all
Black man, what are you gonna do? Black man, I'm talking to you.
Fela Kuti said, music is the weapon of the future.
This is BBC News with the latest headlines for viewers in the UK and around the world. I'm Victoria Derbyshire. The UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson will announce more plans to ease the lockdown, with zoos, safari parks and drive-in cinemas in England allowed to reopen from Monday. The announcement comes a day after the government abandoned plans for all primary schools to return before the summer.
The same voices that last week were basically supporting people who are saying do not open up the schools are this week criticising us for saying, well, we'll take it deliberately, carefully.
A warning from National Health Service leaders in England. 10 million people could end up on hospital waiting lists by the end of the year. More than 30 years after the assassination of Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme, police identify the main suspect as a man who died 20 years ago. There's a warning that almost 300,000 children in India could die